recently I talked to you about the power of retreat, how that having a container and a longer space allows us to go deeper and allows our minds to settle more fully. But we don't always have time for that. And welcome to the holiday season, right? Now everything is like a full court press between now and January 1st. So how can we take just a moment and get some stillness? We can do that with a mindful moment, just being calm and paying attention for a moment. It doesn't have to take long. It can be a single breath, or it can be during an activity that you're already doing. So when the Buddha taught mindfulness, he taught 4 major categories of mindfulness, but with many different parts under each one. And when I say many, I mean over 80. How many exactly depends on how you parse it, whether you count each little one or group a few, but it's a lot. And he was giving us things to be mindful about, things to focus on in order to help calm the mind down. So that's what mindful moments are, is we're just going to focus on hopefully one thing at a time, right? I'll tell you a story on my teacher's teacher. It's in Master Seung San. And if you're familiar with Korean Buddhism, you may have heard this one. But he told his students, don't eat and read at the same time. When eating, only eat. When reading, only read. So my teacher, the late Wanji Dharma, was on a retreat with Seung San. Wanji got up in the middle of the night to go get a snack in the kitchen. I warned you how tempting the refrigerator is when you're trying to practice at home. So Wanji's up getting a snack in the middle of the night. And there's Seung San sitting in the kitchen, reading the newspaper and eating his own snack. Wanji said, Venerable, you told us not to do this. You said when eating, only eat, and when reading, only read. And Seung San said, yes. And when eating and reading, only eat and read. So there you go. Sometimes you will be doing 2 things at once. When you're driving a car, you're operating the vehicle and you're looking at your surroundings. You're checking for traffic and you're making sure you follow your route. So you're doing multiple things at once, but we group it and say it's all driving. Okay. So when we're being mindful, let's try to just pick one thing and not have multiple things going on. So that's what I mean by a mindful moment. We're just going to focus on one thing for a moment. Why should we? Because I'll share with you one of my personal mantras. I got this from the author Christine Arylo. And she says, I never serve from my reserves. Put another way, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. If you lose your shit, everybody in your household is going to follow. Right? So we need to try to be calm, not just for our own health, physical health and mental health, but for the people around us. And even our pets, they sense when we're stressed and they get stressed. So we want to put our own oxygen mask on first before assisting other passengers. In May of 2001, my mom and I took a trip to Egypt. We were flying Lufthansa. And back then, this is before 9/11, the service was better on airlines than it is now. We get on this huge wide-body jet and they hand us a juice box each as we get on the plane. We get to our seats and my mother's looking at this juice box. She's 76. I'm her only child. She has step kids and grandkids, but she's never seen a juice box in her life. She doesn't have no idea what this thing is. So she's about to open the top of it. I hold out my hands. She gives it to me. I take off the straw and I take it out of the plastic and I stick the straw and through the little metal seal into the hole. But I don't straighten the straw, so it's still in this U shape. It's like a hairpin looped back on itself. I hand her the box thinking she'll know what to do from here. She did not. So she's craning her neck, trying to drink from this bent straw. So I take the box back very gently. I straighten the straw and I hand it to her, and then she just giggles. She thought this was very funny, that she had no idea what to do with this juice box. A few minutes later, we're getting the safety briefing on the plane, and they get to the part about the oxygen mask. I patted her on the arm and I said, Mama, if the oxygen masks deploy, I'll help you as soon as I get mine on. And we both just laughed and laughed about that. She had a great sense of humor about these things. But if I didn't know how to open a juice box, I couldn't help her. I would have to call a flight attendant to help us both, right? Because we don't know what we're doing. If I run out of oxygen and I'm starting to get faint, I'm not going to be able to help somebody else. So we don't want to serve from our reserves. We want to make sure that we have a good diet and enough to sleep. And if you're an introvert like me and you thrive on alone time, you need to have some of that. If you're an extrovert and you thrive on being around people, you need to have some of that. Be aware of how you recharge and make sure that you allow yourself the time and space to recharge. So that's why we need mindful moments. How do we do them? You can do them with a single breath. Just pay attention. When you're breathing in, know that you're breathing in. When you're breathing out, know that you are breathing out. There's a story from early in the Buddha's teaching career. One of his students was out and about walking around and ran across another student of a different teacher. And as was the custom at the time, they asked each other, who is your teacher and what does he teach? And yeah, they were all men, so what does he teach? And the Buddhist student said, my teacher teaches us, to walking, sitting, lying down. And the other student says, well, we learned the same things. And the Buddhist student says, yes, but when we're walking, we know that we're walking. When we're sitting, we know that we're sitting. When we're lying down, we know that we're lying down. Basically, mindfulness. Mindfulness is just paying attention. And so you can do it anytime, anywhere. It doesn't have to be a separate time. Maybe you can carve out a separate time for some practice, and that's wonderful. I used to have a job at a children's home. My title was teaching parent, and I was there alone for over the weekend and one day during the week with 8 girls and young women who were wards of the state of Texas. You don't get to be there if you have a healthy home life. So these gals had some damage, and they ranged in age from 10 to 18. The 18-year-old had just turned 18 and graduated high school, but this was not the kind of facility that was going to kick her out. She had time to figure out what she wanted to do and where she was going, and she had a job, so she was on her way to independence, but she wasn't quite there yet, so she was still allowed to stay at the home. I needed some downtime at the end of the day because these gals really put me through it. They had their own emotional injuries, and it made it difficult for me to help them. So at the end of each day, I took a nice warm bath. I put my 18-year-old in charge, and I told her, I don't want to hear you at my door unless you see blood or fire. And I had my relaxing time, and not as long a soak as I would have liked, but at least a little bit of a soak. I hadn't learned meditation officially yet, but I'm pretty sure that's what I was doing. Just relaxing, letting my body settle, letting my mind settle, letting my heart settle. Because this could be a heartbreaking job with some of the things these young girls and women had been through. So I needed that time. I needed to reset myself so that I wasn't serving from my reserves. And I found a way to do that. Most days. Some days didn't happen, but most days. So that's great. But what if you can't even do that? And sometimes we can't. Sometimes there's just no time at all. Roll your mindfulness practice into something you're already doing, because all mindfulness is paying attention. Here is my personal favorite. Mindfulness of dishwashing. I told you the Buddha taught 4 categories. The first one is mindfulness of the body. So I would slot this under that because being aware of what's coming in through all my sense doors. What do I see and hear and touch and taste and smell in that moment while I'm washing the dishes? And I got 4 out of 5 senses active when I'm washing dishes. So first, there's the sight. What am I doing? How dirty is this plate? Where is the dirt on this fork or the food? I've got to be sure I scrub the whole thing and scrub it the right places and blah, blah. So I have to see what I'm doing. Then I'm hearing. I'm hearing the water running or sloshing around, and I'm hearing the squeak of the plates and the bowls. They get clean. Oh, back to sight. I'm also seeing the bubbles. How much soap is left? Do I need more soap? I'm seeing the bubbles. Then I have the hearing. Then touching, I'm feeling the sensations of the item that I'm cleaning, either through the sponge or the whatever it is, the rag, whatever it is that I'm using. I'm feeling that. I'm also aware of my feet on the floor. What am I standing on the earth? How's my posture? So there's all these things going on. You don't want to be hunched over the sink or you'll get a backache and a neck ache, right? So I'm aware of my posture while I'm doing the dishes. And there's a lot of touch and physicality there. And then there is smell of whatever the soap is that I'm using. And maybe it's unscented. Maybe you have an unscented soap. Okay, great. There's the fresh air. There's the fresh scent. Maybe there's the scent of the biological experiment that's going on in the sink. Ooh, you need to address that, right? So there's smells happening as well that we can be aware of. Taste, not so much. Hey, 4 out of 5 ain't bad. So mindfulness of dishwashing. But the important thing is, while I'm washing the dishes, I am not thinking about what I'm going to do when I'm done washing the dishes. And I'm also not thinking about what happened earlier in the day. I'm not running off into the future. I'm not ruminating over the past. I am right here, right now, with my full attention. That's mindfulness. And you can put your full attention to whatever you're doing. You can put your full attention to your body and your breath when you're standing in line waiting to pay for those holiday gifts at the mall. You can put your full attention to wrapping presents, the crinkle of the gift wrap, the beautiful colors and patterns and picking which one you want, the sound of the tape as you pull it out of the dispenser, that little click when you cut it off against the serrated plastic bit on the end of the dispenser. There's a lot of sensory things happening all the time. So you can use those to practice mindfulness of the body and have a reset. It allows your mind to settle. It allows you to have some calm. Then you bring that calm as a ripple effect out into your home and out into the world. I hope that's helpful to you. I hope that you're able to practice some mindful moments. If you have your own way of doing a quick mindfulness practice, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you so we can all learn from each other. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye-bye.